All right, chapter 3, section 2, we are covering still using transversals, but we are using transversals with parallel lines. So chapter 3, section 2 was just kind of knowing the basics of transversals, and knowing what alternate interior, alternate exterior corresponding consecutive angles were. So key thing for this section is parallel lines. So yes, we are still working with proofs. We will have a proof at the end of this notes. And here are some theorems you have to know. Keep in mind, most important thing in this slide is that it says if parallel lines, okay, emphasize on the parallel lines, are cut by a transversal then. These theorems you could only use when you have parallel lines. So what can I use? Okay, you have to remember these. Corresponding angles are congruent. That's corresponding angles theorem. Alternate interior angles are congruent. That's alternate interiors angles theorem. Alternate exterior angles are congruent. That is alternate exterior angles theorem. And then the last one is not congruent. The last one is consecutive interior angles are supplementary. So you have to understand which ones are going to be congruent and which ones are going to be supplementary. So normally when you look at your transversal on your diagram, you should be able to tell which ones are which. Okay, again, knowing vocabulary, and then hopefully you're able to see which ones are congruent and which one is going to be supplementary. You also have to know vertical angles. Okay, vertical angles are also congruent, so that'll help you out. All right, example number 1. Before we go ahead and find those measures, I'm just gonna go ahead and fill in this information. You should be able to find some of these. In order for you to tell if they're giving you parallel lines, they're normally going to be giving you some sort of symbol. Okay, again, everything in geometry is used symbols. So whenever you see these two arrows, okay, those two arrows are telling you that they are parallel. Okay, sometimes you'll see more than one arrow on the line. That just means they go together with each other. They're parallel together. So like our congruency marks, if you have one angle curve, that one angle curve is congruent to the other one angle curve. And if you have two angle curves, that congruency mark is congruent to the angle that has two congruency curves. So understand for parallel, you're given those arrows. So with that being said, another thing you need to understand is that there are 4 transversals here, and I'm going to circle them. This is 1. Okay, I have my transversal. I have 2 lines going through my transversal at different points. I have another transversal right here, so you have to be able to identify these. Keep in mind this one does not have parallel lines cutting the transversal. I have one right here. This is my transversal, and this one does have parallel lines. And then here's my my fourth transversal. This one does not have parallel lines cutting it. So you just have to understand what goes where, what is what. You could always look at it as separate transversals being cut by 2 lines. So looking at this, we're going to go ahead and fill in the angle measures. Okay, I'm going to look at this one first because I have my parallel lines. So if I'm looking at it, this is 130 degrees. What else would be 130 degrees? Yes, Sophia. 2. Angle 2, how would I know angle 2 is going to be 130 degrees? Good, they're corresponding angles. So this one's also going to be 130 degrees. What else is going to be 130 degrees? Camilla? Angle 1 is going to be 130 degrees? I don't think so. Not angle 1, something else. Do you want to try again?
7? I don't know.
Not 7, Brandon. 4, not 4. Remember, guys, we're looking for angles that are congruent. Michaela? 3. How do we know angle 2 and angle 3 are going to be congruent? They're vertical angles. Okay, you have to remember what vertical angles are. These are considered vertical angles. This is going to be congruent. This is going to be 130 degrees. What else is going to be 130 degrees? Yes. Angle 6 is also going to be 130 degrees. I know the line is a little messed up here, but yes. Okay. So now we have to figure out what 1, 4, 5, and 7 are. Okay. We're going to look right here. This is 130 degrees. We need to figure out this missing. What are these two angles called? Starts with an L.
Linear pairs.
Good. They're linear pairs. Okay, linear pairs mean they share a side and they're supplementary. If they're supplementary, I should be able to find my missing. Supplementary means what? 180 degrees. So this entire line is 180 degrees. If I know that one angle is 130 degrees, how would I find my missing angle? Good. 180 minus 130, what would I get? 50 degrees. So angle 7 is 50 degrees. What else is going to be 50 degrees? What else is going to be 50 degrees? Laura? Angle 5, good. They're vertical angles. This is also going to be 50 degrees. What else is going to be 50 degrees? Yeah, Bailey? Angle 1. So if I'm looking at angle 5 and comparing it to angle 1, these are both called consecutive angles. Remember, when you have a parallel lines, consecutive angles are congruent. I'm sorry, not consecutive, corresponding. They're corresponding angles. This is also 50. These are corresponding angles. Consecutive are my interior angles. So also, yes, let me just go over that. Consecutive interior angles right here. I'll highlight it in orange. These are consecutive interior angles. When I have parallel lines, consecutive interior angles are supplementary. So if I were to double check my work and add 130 plus 50, is that going to give me 180? Yes. Okay, so consecutive interior angles are supplementary. Corresponding angles are congruent. So what else is going to be congruent to 50? There's one more angle. Leilani? Angle 4 is also going to be 50 because those two are vertical angles. So we'll highlight my vertical angles. These two are vertical as well as these two. Again, corresponding angles 4 and 7 are corresponding angles, and 5 and 1 are corresponding angles. All right, what is the measure of angle 8? Good, it's giving me that box. I know it looks really big, but this is 90. All of these angles right here are going to be 90 degrees. Again, how do I know that? Because these are parallel lines, and here's my transversal. If this angle's 90, this angle's 90. If this angle's 90, this angle's 90. You could add these two to give you 180. You could add these two to give you 180, and vice versa with all of these lines. So now I'm able to go ahead and fill out my missing angles. My missing measures of my angles. So angle 1, we said was 50. Angle 4 is also 50. Angle 5 is also 50. And angle 7 is also 50 degrees. 130 degrees. Angle 2 is 130 degrees. Angle 3 is 130 degrees. Angle 6 is 130 degrees. And then angle 8, what did we say angle 8 was? 90 degrees, good. So some key information, what do we use to get here? Looking at my diagram. So we know information that we should be able to tell. That original 130 and angle 7 are linear pairs. Okay, it's a linear pair. Anytime you see that, we should automatically know linear pair. What else do we know? Angle 4 and your original 130 are consecutive interior angles. Which means they're supplementary. We also know that we should know that corresponding angles I forgot the rest. Angles are congruent. Keep in mind these two are only if they're parallel lines. Okay, you could only tell only if those two are parallel lines. And then the last one we should know from previous lessons, vertical angles are congruent. So this is information that we should be able to tell. Keep in mind, these have parallel lines, so you have to be able to determine if they are parallel or not. All right, find the missing values. Again, I'm just going to zoom in on here, and I'm going to determine information we know. So if I'm looking at it, here are my arrows. These two lines are going to be parallel to each other. These have two arrows, meaning these two lines are again going to be parallel to each other. And I have a total of 4 transversals. Here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, here's 4. So determining information, they're already giving me 110. What else is going to be 110? Camilla? Did you want to? Callie? 2Z is going to be 110. How do I know? They're not vertical angles, they're corresponding angles. Okay? They're corresponding angles. What else is going to be 110? I'm just filling in all the angles. We could find all of them here. So what else is going to be 110? I'm not just doing the 2Z, the 2Y, or the X. I'm filling everything in. So where's another corresponding angle for 110? Yeah. The vertical angle of 2Z is also going to be 110. Good. What else is going to be 110? Jonah?
The angle next to X.
Good. The angle next to X is going to be 110. What else is going to be 110? Yeah. The angle next to 2Y is going to be 110. And then I have 3 more. Sophia? So I'll just go ahead and fill all of them in. All of my vertical angles are going to be 110. All right, other information. Keep in mind I have a linear pair here. Linear pair, I'm going to highlight it. I have a linear pair right here. Okay, we'll just find this one angle. I'm not going to... There are plenty of linear pairs. If it's a linear pair, what does that mean? Remember, linear pairs are 2 things. They're adjacent and they're supplementary. So if this is a supplementary angle, what would the other angle be measured? Yeah. 70. Okay, what else is going to be 70? Yeah. X is also going to be 70. Those are corresponding angles. Yeah. 2y is also going to be 70. Again, those are corresponding angles. What else is going to be 70? Yes. All the vertical angles. So here's 70. Here's 70. Here's 70. And then what else? Yeah. The linear pair on this side and the linear pair on this side. Okay, so hopefully we're able to find those. So again, be aware of the vocabulary. These are all vertical angles. These are vertical. And then you have linear pairs. They're all over. All right, now that we know that information, I can go ahead and find what I am missing. So x equals what? 70 degrees. Y. Okay, they're not giving me y, but I have 2y equals 70, so how would I find out y? Good, divide by 2, and y would equal? What would y equal? Good, 35 degrees. And then my last one, z. I have 2z, which equals 110. How would I find out z by itself? Divide by 2, and what would I get for z? Good, 55. Okay, so we should be able to find all of that information. All right, example number 3, it says, when sunlight enters a drop of rain, different colors of light leave the drop at different angles. This process is what makes a rainbow. For violet light, the measure of angle 2 is 40 degrees. What is the measure of angle 1 and how do you know? So going back to our theorems, I'm just going to go ahead and label angle 2 is 40 degrees. Who could tell me what is the measure of angle 1? Yes. 40 degrees, and how can we tell it's 40 degrees? Good. Alternate interior angles theorem. Okay, make sure you know what theorem you're using because you will eventually use the theorems. If you are abbreviating, please make sure you're abbreviating to where I can tell what you're writing. So for example, on your test, substitution and subtraction, some students just put SUB. They both start with SUB. You need to give me some more than that. So I don't know what you are writing SUB for, so you have to give me more information. So if I were to abbreviate this, I would write alternate, okay, shortening it, alt, interior, angles, theorem. Please make sure you are abbreviating to a point where I can understand what you are writing. Laura, did you have a question? Okay. All right, and last slide, example number 4. This is a proof. Yes, you can solve this in 2 using a theorem. However, it will not always be that easy on a test, so I'm going to give you a little more than 2. So looking at this, given P is parallel to Q. Keep in mind you have to remember your symbols. I have my statements, my reasons. They want me to prove that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. So I'm going to just zoom in. So my first one, I have P is parallel to Q. And what's my reason for that? Given, good. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and write angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. How do I know that angle 1 is congruent to angle 3? Yes. Good. Corresponding angles theorem. Corresponding angles theorem. Okay, corresponding angles theorem. Now, angle 3 is congruent to angle 2. How do I know that angle 3 is congruent to angle 2? How are those two congruent? Yes, Laura? Good. So I'm going to use vertical angles congruent theorem. And you could also put VAT, vertical angles theorem. And then my last one for 4, I have angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. And how do I know those are congruent? How do I know angle 1 is congruent to angle 2? Yeah. Yes, but I'm looking at what I've used before. So when I say look at, what do I have here? What can I do? Yeah. I could do substitution. So if I were to use alternate interior angles theorem, I could have just went from given to that, but it's not going to be always that easy that's given to you. So yes, I'm going to look at what I have before, and I'm going to do substitution, or some people like transitive, but to be on the safe side, I would just use substitution. Again, you cannot always use transitive. Okay, so I would use substitution. All right, questions, comments, concerns? Remember, for homework, you do not have to show work for 1 and 2, but 1, 2, and 11, but you have to show work for everything else. Please make sure it is numbered, and your quiz is on Tuesday.